Hey friends, welcome back to the Hobby Lobby Creative Studio. I'm Sarah. Today I've got some great tips for you as you're laying out your fabric to complete your sewing project and what to do before you cut out your pattern pieces, so stick around. Okay guys, so we're not going to talk specifically about patterns today, just how to lay out your pattern pieces onto your fabric. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking at a pattern for the very first time, it can look really intimidating, but I promise that it'll become easier as time goes by. And if you really want to become comfortable with patterns, just grab one that's an easy difficulty level and practice with that one. So to lay out our pattern pieces, you always want to refer to your instructions that are located within your pattern packet. These will tell you detailed information that you need to know about where to put your pattern pieces and to put your pieces next to maybe a fold in the fabric or what's called a selvage edge. A selvage edge is not actually used for any part of your sewing project. It's basically just a reference. What it does maybe is it has the name of the fabric printed on it and the fiber content, and that way you can cut it off and refer to that fabric later if you need to buy more of that same fabric. Now it's also kind of like a finished edge that helps the fabric from fraying and coming apart. So that's a selvage edge, and a lot of times in your patterns it tells you where the selvage edge needs to be in relation to where your pattern pieces go, as well as where the fold of your fabric needs to be in relation to your pattern pieces as well. So here I've got a couple of examples laid out of pattern pieces, and I've got some that are based on the fold of the fabric and some that are on the selvage edge side. So overall, just pay really close attention to where the instructions are telling you to place those patterns. Now also with pattern pieces, when you're cutting them out, you might want to give them a light press first with your iron, just on a really low heat setting. And whenever you cut them out, you want to cut them right along this black line that you see. So get as close to this line as possible, and as accurately as possible too, and then lay them on your fabric. Now, the pattern maker has already allotted for the seam allowance whenever making these dark lines and making the size of these pattern pieces. A seam allowance is the actual distance between the stitches that make up your seam and the cut edge of your fabric. So typically on a lot of commercial patterns, the seam allowance is usually 5/8 of an inch. So what that means is that when you're cutting this pattern piece out, they've already allotted for that 5/8 of an inch, and as soon as you cut out that pattern piece, you have as much fabric as you need. Now on the flip side of that, if you're not working with a pattern, maybe you're just cutting out some pieces of fabric freehand to make maybe an easy pillow, then you just want to cut out a little bit of extra fabric, larger than the actual size that you want your pillow to be, to leave room for your seams. So this again is your seam allowance. Now when you're ready to cut out your pattern pieces, just take your straight pins and pin your pattern into place. Once you finish that, you're ready to cut out using your fabric scissors or your rotary cutter or whichever tool that you need to cut out your pieces. So thanks everyone, that's it for today. We'll see you next time.